Welcome everybody, welcome to the Retail Trends panel, where we will be walking you through some of the trends and opportunities, some niche, some big, stepping into Q4 and going into next year. I'm Amy Rabheru, by the way. I'm a retail business expert, and I also an ex-retail buyer as well. So I've spent about 20 years in the world of retail buying. Worked for some of the biggest retailers on the high street. You may recognise some of them: M&S, Next, Tesco's. Yeah, I can see some nods. And I'm now a retail business consultant, helping retail brands to start, grow, and scale. Joining me today are Rachel and Jinny. Unfortunately, if you have come here to see Roman, he is stuck in our lovely transport system, and he will join us as soon as he can. We hope he gets here for some of it. Please feel free to introduce yourselves.
So hey, I'm Rachel Sheila Khan, and I'm a sustainable fashion consultant in the industry. I also lecture on sustainability and ethics in business, so I'll be looking at today the trends around sustainability. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jinny Kudhail, and my business is called Decorasian. And Decorasian is a cultural gifting brand, a luxury gift packaging company, and all our products are made from eco-friendly and sustainable materials, including recycled cottons and silks. And I'm really excited to talk to you about some of the trends coming up and opportunities for cultural gifting in the retail world.
Lovely. So one of the, am I still on? Yeah. So one of the things that we really wanted to start with actually is something that's on top of all of our minds right now, the current climate and how that's going to translate into customer behaviour, essentially. The challenging climate over the last couple of years, beyond that now, slightly more than that, has brought many twists and turns for the retail sector. And the current challenges that we're facing right now as well, it seems unlikely that we're going to see any major shifts in consumer behaviour. And what consumers are doing, thinking and feeling are what drives their purchasing decisions. And the trends that we've seen as a result of the last couple of years have now become habits that have stuck and evolved, and they're only likely to get stronger and mould the retail sector for the rest of the year and beyond. We know that with the inflation, don't want this to be doomy and gloomy at all, but inflation and cost of living crisis that we're facing, consumer sentiment and purchasing power is low. And as retailers and brands, we're having to navigate a whole load more obstacles in our businesses. With the current climate, we naturally are going to see consumers being even more conscious and cautious with their spending and cutting back on non-essential purchases. And we also think Christmas spending in Q4, the golden quarter. Rachel, what are you seeing happening in your world right now?
In the sustainability sector for sure, and I work mainly in the supply chain sort of area, so working with brands, factories, supply chains, we're seeing a lot more push towards collaboration. And one of my businesses is called the Ecosystem Incubator, where we start working together to reduce that margin as a collective of brands or entities. So that I think that's a real way that we can start physically reducing that margin. Instead of everyone going out there separately buying things, we can collectively buy things together. So, and that also is in terms of how we showcase ourselves as well. How can we come together and showcase what we're doing? I also think there's a bigger push towards sort of items of durability. So you might be able to charge a lot more money for something that lasts a longer time. And add-on sales with things like repair services and connecting with other people that are doing repair. And that can go for a lot of places, right?
Absolutely,
so, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's going to be a really important point and a really important way in terms of how customers are feeling right now and what they're doing and how they're behaving. Jinny, from a brand's perspective then, what areas do you still see being challenging, especially when it comes to pricing your products for retail? Cost prices and...
Yeah. So in terms of some of the challenges that we faced, and we're no different to everybody else, we've all had the rise of everything going up, including fuel costs, the raw materials to make our products. So we've had to look at our business from a slightly different perspective. We've had to go back to some of our suppliers and manufacturers and actually renegotiate some sort of lower minimum quantities. And by doing this, it still allows us to bring that product to our customers, but it just means that we're not left with so much and we've invested in so much. So I think your relationship with your suppliers should be a really good and an important one. Other things that we've also done in our business is we've had to, with a fine-tooth comb, look at each and every part of it and preempt some of the rises that are occurring, and looking at what might have been hero products and what else we can bring in as hero products at a slightly lower value. So that just means, for example, we might have a box in a particular print, but it might be far cheaper and more cost-effective to actually have, say, a bag in it, a gift bag. So we're still sticking to the same prints and designs, but we're just changing the style of it. We've also worked with lots of our customers just to see what it is that they want, and just keep bringing in all that stuff as well for them.
And I think that's a really good point, because I think creating value in the eyes of the customer, especially when things are going up and up and up, is a really important point. And so how can, and I know this is something you do really well, how can brands adapt their messaging to align with what customers are doing, thinking and feeling right now?
I think, again, that relationship with the customer is really important. So whether you're doing that via talking to them directly, through emails, through general surveys, I think it's very, very important that you keep in touch with them. And in terms of giving them products that they really want, allowing them to also invest their sort of suggestions in your business, I think is a really key one. And one way that we've done this is through pop-ups. So we'll talk to customers and we'll really engage with them and to see what they want.
Absolutely. I also think what we're going to continue to see is this kind of consumer recessionary behaviour. And it's something that we've seen in the past, particularly when I was a buyer, 2008, 2009, for quite a large retailer. It was a multi-product retailer, and we really felt the impact of that behaviour, particularly in certain product categories and certain product ranges. We saw things like consumers switching brands, purchasing own label, generally looking for a more affordable option across most categories. But actually, on the flip side, we also saw some categories catapult. I was a lingerie buyer at the time, and the lingerie was the jewel in the crown of the business. It was just doing so well, and we saw other categories like makeup and self-care and self-indulgent kind of product doing really, really well. And I think that's kind of that feeling, isn't it, that we get when we're in tough times, and we saw that through the pandemic. I think we're going to continue to see that now. And actually, as a reaction to some of the recessionary behaviours that we saw, and what the competition were doing, what we did was we grew that value end of the mix. And whilst we sold a lot of volume, it ended up being a margin eroding strategy. And somewhere along the lines, discounting became more frequent. Discounting before Christmas became a thing, Black Friday became a thing, and, when I look back, actually, I think, gosh, retailers really did shoot themselves in the foot, didn't they? And some of those strategies were really difficult to move out of, still are difficult to move out of. Rachel, I know that you've got, what pitfalls and mistakes should we be careful of making this time round?
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about Black Fridays and Cyber Mondays in our industry of sustainability or our sector, for years and years, we've always been advocated against overproduction and that overconsumption, and actually to come back to product of worth. And you were discussing mitigating that risk by reducing your reducing that. And I think that's a really important part. And that's actually a sustainability thing that you can share in your business, that you don't overstock, that you only have things in stock that are useful. And having that conversation with your customer, like you said, is really important in that. But we've been sharing in the sustainable circles for many years about moving away from those kind of things and coming into maybe other messages that we can bring to the forefront. There's loads of sustainable days that we can start talking about, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I think it's a really big, important part to add that durability to the conversation as we're going along. Yeah.
I know, Jinny, you're doing some things in your business too.
Yeah, absolutely, Amy. And I think it's not just throwing in promotions and offers and discounts. It's actually putting in appropriate offers that will work. For example, in my business, we do a lot of garment packaging. So rather than buying an individual, and what we found in particular with the cultural brands and individual people that we're working with, they'd want to buy multiples of those. So rather than just offering it as a single piece, we've brought in offers where we're doing multi-bundles, and they're selling extremely well. And that's just, that's just another way that we can capture that particular product
absolutely.
as well.
And then going back to the Black Friday piece, stepping into Q4, last year we're talking about this, last year was the first time that we saw less emphasis, don't know whether you noticed it, but less emphasis on Black Friday, Cyber Monday across the high street. And we were waiting for that, weren't we? Because last year we saw Amazon start early and ended up making the year before even, start a bit early, start at the beginning of November and almost making it into a Black Friday month. But last year we definitely saw people pull back from Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And, is that the shape of things to come? Do you think that's a reaction to the sort of buy less, buy better movement? I know people are fed up, but, in your world,
absolutely. I think from what I've seen, people are getting a bit sickened by that. I certainly am. I don't know about everyone else, but it feels like we're moving into a different space with the way we buy. We're looking at that longevity or that what we call an emotional durability with our items. So you have something in your wardrobe or whatever it is that you're buying that you have an emotional response to. You want to keep it for longer. You want to repair it. You want to love it. Therefore, I think we'll see a lot of move into how we can link with, say, repair systems and systems that are coming through, or businesses that I know there's about 4 or 5 in my fashion space that you can add on to your business as something that's extra for those customers. So I think, when we're looking at the new ways of sharing, it will be building with those sister brands or those brands that will help you keep, or your customers keep your that emotional durability with your items, like, for sure.
Absolutely.
And there's a financial bit to talk about, but maybe that's a bit later.
No, definitely. I think there's a piece around how brands can adapt. I don't think that just putting blanket price increases on retail prices is a sustainable way of doing business. And I think that's the short-term reaction is that's exactly what we see happening. Sorry, prices are going up, so our prices are going up too. I don't think that's going to be a future sustainable way of doing business. And I think that we'll be looking at more nuanced ways of how we look at our retail businesses and looking at product mixes, category mixes, and looking at how we do promotions, like Jinny mentioned, and things like the 3 for 2, like we were talking about, which if you don't want 3 of something, people are getting a bit wound up by that, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think overall there's this bigger trend in the financial sector that's about looking at risk, not just in terms of your financial risk, but your sustainability risk. ESG investors on the larger scale, if you're looking for investors in your SME, it's coming down to you guys. It's coming down. They will want to see in your financial documents what you're doing about sustainability, as well as how you are being about your financial structures in your business. And I think that will show up in the retail trends as we're going forward,
totally.
for sure.
Totally, and I think the big messages that we've seen through the pandemic and lockdowns is being agile with your stock holding, reevaluating your sourcing, whether that be working with your supplier and meeting them where you're at and managing risk together, or cross-sourcing opportunities. I think that's going to be still a really relevant message in your retail businesses. I know that. Actually, Hampers as a multi, when we talk about promotions, Hampers has worked really well for you as well, hasn't it? As an opportunity to increase your average selling price without investing in stock that's higher, particularly for Q4 and gifting. Talk to us about that.
Absolutely,
Jinny.
and hampers are obviously a really popular thing, especially in Q4 with Christmas, Diwali, and other events that come up in the year. But the beauty of it is that you can put something together, and I've actually got an example here that you can look at afterwards with some products in there. And the beauty of it is that it can then be dismantled afterwards, and what doesn't sell can be sold off separately. And the idea of that very much is that you're not holding any additional stock, you're not investing in too much as well, and then you're not going forward and thinking, I'm left with all this stock on my shelves, what do I do with it? And as a small brand, I've been very guilty of doing that in the first place. When I first started out, I was doing a lot of that and then being left with so much more. But by breaking it up at a later stage and being able to sell it off, it just means that your cash flow is okay as well, and you're not having any problems later on. And that's the last thing as a small brand we want.
I love that. I love that as a way to add some sort of agility to your business, Jinny.
Thank you.
Okay, so where are we? The next thing we wanted to talk about is potentially a niche opportunity, or actually a big opportunity. We're seeing, retail brands evolve the evolving traditional calendar as we know it. And it's evolved so much over the last few years. And I think there's opportunities to create growth and tapping into new markets, and almost sort of tapping into these emotions and creating these strong emotions. Jinny, we've seen some of the bigger retailers tapping into the sort of Asian markets and cultural gifting opportunities, particularly Q4, Diwali, there's Eid in the summer and all that kind of thing. Tell us about what you see as an opportunity and share some insight.
Yeah, well, Q4 I always see as being the celebration part of the year.
Yeah.
You've got Diwali, you've got Halloween, you've got Christmas, obviously the biggie. But really, I think the whole calendar is an opportunity. And in our line of work, because we're working with lots of different culturally diverse communities, we're seeing that we're busy almost all year round, starting from January all the way through, because not only are you talking about all the major events that are celebrated in the general calendar, but it's interlaced with those from the ethnic minority groups and culture, other cultures. And again, as I went back to talking about Diwali is coming up next month, and by now, if it was in India, it would be completely covered, just like Christmas would be. This would be a mad buying time for customers. But here in the UK, Diwali is celebrated slightly differently, but it is still very much of an important part of celebrations for so many communities. And obviously, being the Festival of Light, it's a great opportunity to have candles and tea light holders and items for the home, because that's very much the way Diwali is celebrated in this country. Those are the kind of things that people would purchase, and obviously not forgetting food, which is always a big one of my favourites. And then obviously straight after Christmas, it would be the start of looking at Eid, which comes up in April 2023, but starts off a month early with Ramadan, and that's a very important part for the Muslim calendar. Yeah. So there are two major events, but they're not the only ones, because interlaced with all of that, again, is Asian weddings, and which are really extravagant events themselves. And I don't know if any of you have attended any Asian weddings, but they're sort of multi-day, big, colourful events, yeah. And gifting is a really big part of that. And hence the reason why our business works with a lot of brides and grooms and their families. And it's not just gifting for the bride and groom, but families are gifting, guests are gifted, everybody is, and then it's a lot of cross-gifting. And that's an ideal opportunity for retailers to hold products that will be more culturally appropriate. Now, one of the reasons I actually went into this business myself was because a few years back, my niece got married and I couldn't see anything on the high street at all. So, just by holding things that would be more appropriate and would be suitable for gifting for various communities would be a real opportunity for retailers. Things that would have, say, patterns like traditional paisleys, the rangolis. You've all heard of those kind of names, and they are, really nice and appropriate gift wraps and gift bags and boxes that can be kept all year round and can be multifunctional as well. It's not just for those events, but at least it's nice to be able to see those on the high street in retail. So that's very much where we are, and we do a lot of gifting and gift products with our business. So just having striking patterns, the colours, the shapes, the again recyclable and sustainable products such as jute, which is very common. Just wonderful, gift packaging products like that. And obviously, money is also a really big part of gifting, be it for weddings or for your teenager that doesn't really know what sort of gift you want to get for them. So having envelopes in matching, that will match your bags and your boxes is a really another good way of holding things that won't take up too much room, but are a really good way forward.
I love your products. I absolutely love them. They're just adorable. And I think that
Thank you.
Gifting as an opportunity, I think, is a quick win. But we've also seen, and you touched on food, and I think actually grocers are way ahead, aren't they? Because they have been doing this for a long time with food. And I went into Tesco's the other day and I saw napkins and party plates which said Happy Diwali on them. And so they're way ahead, and they have been doing it for a long time. But the opportunity to sort of bring this into mainstream retail, and we've seen some of the bigger retailers already tap into those markets. And I threw that picture up there because actually ASOS, they've been sort of tapping into the Asian wedding market like you mentioned, and doing Asian clothing and things like that. So it really is evolving, and it really is becoming quite an important. I've seen it in homewares, and other sort of starting to spread the word now, isn't it? It's really starting to get bigger.
Yes, definitely.
That's brilliant. Okay. And then other events, I
think there's loads of other events, but also niches and tribes that you can get involved with, So veganism, for instance, is on the rise. There's now 600,000 vegans in the UK, which is a massive shift since they originally did the Source, the Vegan Society. So you can tap into other aspects, specifically as well in the sustainability space, if you do obviously have integrity on that. And I'm not encouraging anyone to greenwash here right now at all. Please don't greenwash. But like getting into sort of fashion revolution, or that comes in April. A lot of my fashion brands, they end up launching for Fashion Revolution to showcase a new brand. Earth Day, there's literally pretty much a day every month, or at least every week in the sustainable calendar. So if you do want to pivot your business to sustainability, there's a whole new calendar out there for you to go after.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a huge opportunity, I think, for retail to drive sales. If you just look outside of your traditional calendar and pay closer attention to the ever-evolving retail calendar as it is now, it helps you connect with customers, and particularly relevant events like Rachel mentioned, and of course cultural brands like you mentioned. There's definitely some more opportunity to be represented in retail there. So thank you for that. So the final thing we wanted to talk about was connected journeys, and over the last couple of years we've seen an evolution of technology to help us to do that, particularly for small businesses where they can't necessarily invest huge amounts of money in technologies, but there's easier things now like apps that connect to your Shopify website that allow you to video shop and all those kind of things. So, I think it's really important, and I think it's a must in any business. And I know, Rachel, you have some insights for us on this.
Yeah, I mean, I've been traveling to China for pretty much most of my career. And I saw this trend like years and years ago. And Taobao over in China, they've been doing video retail for years and years.
Yeah.
And not everyone can get involved with it. It's great. And then we're seeing that come to fruition now with TikTok and other spaces. So I think it's a great way that you can bring your product straight to the consumer. And over in China, it was like you'd get models and you'd be talking through all of the different things that they were wearing, and you could buy it straight then. So we're seeing that trend now come over here, which is really interesting. It's going to really change the landscape,
Definitely.
right?
I think it's definitely going down. And it is that whole thing about how customers now want to interact and engage with brands, and I think meeting customers where they are right now, and the way they want to shop, how they want to shop, and how they want to engage with brands is important, and it did rely on expensive technology in the past, but it has now become easier where you can plug in to your Shopify website, for example, and start selling on TikTok, and actually when I think about it, and when I think about how customers want to engage with brands right now and how interactive they want to be with brands, websites are quite boring now, aren't they? But I mean, most transactions still happen on websites, but it's that kind of evolving way that customers want to engage.
Yeah, absolutely. And Amy, I think with the new Gen Z type of shoppers coming through, I think this is an ideal opportunity, isn't it? Because they do everything on TikTok or on their phones. That's how they live, literally, now. So, that's a really good opportunity, I feel, for them.
Absolutely, I really do. My kids, they just literally live on Fortnite most of the time. So I can see that long term we'll be able to buy Fortnite skins or something and wear them.
Yeah, definitely. And things like pop-up shops, I know they're not new, but they are evolving and they are strong, and they're a great way for a pure play to connect with your customers in a physical space. Tell us about your experience in doing pop-up shops, Jinny.
So we've been doing pop-ups for quite some time now, and I really feel that's an important way for small brands to get out there, because it raises brand awareness, it also gives you that physical space, and it also allows you to really engage with your customers. There's no substitute for being able to pick up, feel, see, what the product's like, and online you simply don't get that kind of experience. So that's one thing that we always have in our calendar, be it sort of wedding fairs or pop-ups, or whether it's a Christmas one, Diwali, Eid, or whichever one that we want to go for, we will always try to make sure that they're in our calendar every single year. And it's a really good investment for small businesses. Also, I feel we can use it as a bit of a marketing tool, because that's when we can really speak to our customers and see what is it that they like, and what colours work, what doesn't work, what prints work, what styles work, what would they like to see. And that helps us to shape our future ranges. And we've used that tool for some time now. And I just feel that pop-ups are the ideal way to do that.
And I think collaboration comes into that a bit, doesn't it? In the sense that when you're collaborating with other businesses, it helps you with the headache of acquisition of customers, and you all tap into each other's markets and customers, and that helps you grow as well.
Absolutely.
And I know, Rachel, you're doing some great stuff with the ecosystem. Talk to us a little bit about businesses getting together.
With the Ecosystem Incubator, collaboration is a huge thing, that we're not in competition, that we start to work together. Yeah. We're actually starting one of our first pop-ups, which is going to be in Circular Futures. We work with a lot of waste-to-wear brands, and because they're all like-minded, and it's really important as well with the pop-ups, I think, to showcase the story. For sustainable brands, the story is one of the most important things, and it's not easily showcased through just looking at the item. We'll be doing our waste-to-wear on the 13th of October, and showcasing and sharing together. And what that means is each of those brands that are coming together are all sharing that out to their networks as well. And it's all like-minded networks. So it means you get the power of that entire network rather than just your own waving your little flag, right? So collaboration for me is a really important part of how we work in this economy, which is set to big boys, big brands, and how we share and showcase and lift each other up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, and taking that collaboration forward is another thing that you do tap into each other's customers as well, which is really good. But from my own collaborations, I've just found that we've been able to provide or design products for other product-based businesses, and we've had a number of product-based businesses that have then become our customers as well. So there's great opportunities with doing pop-ups and collaborating.
Yeah, I think it's really good for SEO as well, because sometimes the collaborators kind of show up on everyone's websites and things like that. So it creates that a bigger story, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
and I think from a customer perspective as well, stepping into the customer's shoes, they get to engage with your brand, get to know you, connect with you, and the convenience of shopping from lots of different brands and discovering new products all under one roof is the convenience factor as well, isn't it? And the excitement that you can create around that event.
Yeah, cool. I think there's also something in that affiliate or linking in a JV sort of way. So say if you have got a fashion brand and you want to link with a repair company, you can then work together to create a win-win for each other and share and showcase. So I think there can be other real creative stuff with that.
Definitely. Okay, so that comes to the end, but in summary then, can't look back. So we talked about promotions as being an important part of retailing. It's what drives retail. It's an important part of retailing. But with consumer sentiment and spending power low and the ever-increasing cautious customer, we think there is definitely an opportunity to have to think about more thoughtful promotions in your business and meet that customer where they're at. Think about what you might pull away from doing and think about what you might continue to grow stronger, or how you're going to adapt your messaging to align with what the customer is doing, thinking and feeling. Also, economic pressures will continue to put pressure on pricing, as Jinny mentioned, and those sort of continuing blanket price increases is not going to be a sustainable strategy. So have a think about looking at more nuanced approaches, like reconsidering look at your sourcing strategy, look at your product and category mixes. I think that could be a really dynamic way of looking at how your good, better and best pans out in your retail business, and how you engage that customer by still giving them that really nice journey of being able to trade up and down within your business, but continuing to sort of engage them and show them that value in their range. Consider other opportunities as well to grow your revenue by paying closer attention to the ever-evolving retail calendar, like cultural products, more meaningful personal events, key industry events, and those that create strong emotional responses and connections with your customers, values, and also demographics. And then still continuing to be prepared to be agile so that you can be agile and respond to trends and shifting behaviours. Retail has moved faster than we've ever known it. And we've already learned some of the lessons and know what the benefits of being able to move quickly are. So continue to be agile in your business. And finally, on connected journeys, always be prepared to meet your customer where they are at and how they want to engage and shop with you. Always put the customer at the heart of your business. And whilst things have changed so much, the one thing that hasn't changed is the principles of retailing, which is having the right product at the right time in the right place. So that brings us to a close. We're happy to open up the floor to a Q&A, and also please do connect with us where you can see us on the screen. Okay.
Or afterwards. Good.
Any questions?
Yeah.
No
Also
questions.
happy to. We'll still be here if any of you want to connect with us and come and talk to us individually. We're happy to answer any of your questions, and you can come and connect with us as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Amy. Thanks,
All
guys.
right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.